Hello, everyone. I'm back. LA Rams Central will be starting up once again every week. Sorry for the long hiatus. My hopefully somewhat slimming but still fat face has been very busy doing some things, whether it be studying for the government test that I needed to pass to get certified to teach it, which I did. I'm very excited. So now I'm teaching government as well as global studies at my school. But also with a 2-year-old going on 3, I've been spending a lot of quality time with him, bonding with him, renovating the room thanks to a viewer who had said, you got a lot of things going on there that aren't football related and certainly not Rams related. You might want to think about changing that up. I can't remember your name, forgive me, but I did think it was good advice, and after having some time off, I figured, hey, why not renovate the room? So I've got my St. Louis Ram poster and pennant. I've got my Los Angeles Ram poster and pennant. I've got my Rams helmet up top. Those are the 3 Super Bowls the Rams were in. The 2 from St. Louis and the 1 from Los Angeles. Obviously the Steelers in '79. Super Bowl 34 against the Titans. And against the Cheatriots in Super Bowl 36. I also have a board my wife got me. I'll be updating that today, actually. I'm going to go over that. My wife got me that a couple years ago, actually, so I had to change St. Louis to L.A. Got their schedule all written down there. No results yet because none are in. So I've been doing that. Been busy, but I've definitely missed doing the show, and I hope you guys have missed me. If not, that's okay too. You're still going to watch me or not watch me like you've been doing. So for those of you that have been watching, I'm back. You can keep watching. For those of you that haven't been watching, you can keep ignoring me and moving on to the next YouTube video you find. I am excited, though, for the show today, because the show today we're going to cover 3 things. We're going to cover my preseason predictions, which is something I do every year. Before the preseason games officially get the full week kicked off, I go through and do my predictions for how I think each team's going to do through the postseason. I also then, once the season starts and the preseason's over and injuries are in and I've seen guys perform and I kind of know what I'm looking for and questions get answered, then I do a legitimate prediction for the season and see how it unfolds. And I'm about 25%. 25% of the time I'm right. I mean, I'm no genius. Most of the time it doesn't even work out that I'm right, but it's just a gut feeling or something that I go on. Usually, though, one of my surprises usually does surprise, whether they go into the playoffs or they're just a surprising team. Last year, for me, that was the Washington Redskins. This year, you'll see who it is. I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to conclude the show with the Rams, talking about the preseason game against Dallas, and kind of best case scenario, worst case scenario, what we can look forward to as fans. I'm also going to end the show with the Rams. I had an interesting dream. I don't normally share my dreams, but this one was very interesting, so I want to get it on record so people know in case it oddly comes to fruition. But it was a pretty cool dream. But the important thing right now is doing the predictions, and we will be doing that here shortly. So, again, we'll start with my preseason predictions. Okay, guys, so here's what I'm going to do. It might be hard to see the board, so I'm going to explain in detail what I'm showing up here and what I'm doing. But I have these magnets that go on this board, and you can put them in order from first to second. And I usually update my board in the off-season, in the preseason for my preseason predictions. And then prior to week 1, I do my official regular season predictions. And then I leave them up. And as each week passes and the schedule changes and the standings change, I update it. So this will actually be authentically updated based on the regular season. But I will not modify it for the preseason just because I want to see how much of it changes, if any, when we do my regular season show. So for the first part of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the AFC. And I'm going to start with the AFC East because a lot of people are talking highly of the New England Patriots despite the loss of Tom Brady. Now, for Ram fans, you need to take something into consideration. If New England wins this year, the NFC or the AFC East, they will become the only team in NFL history to win 8 straight division titles, breaking the Rams' record of 7 from 73 to 79. Now, as much as I would love to say that's not going to happen, and losing Garoppolo is going to make all the difference, losing Tom Brady is going to make all the difference in the world, the problem is that the AFC, especially the East, did not do anything to catch up with the New England Patriots. And I think 11-5 is going to win the division by 2 games. So, unfortunately, I have the New England Patriots winning the AFC East and breaking the Rams' record and winning their division. 11-5 will be good enough for a first-round bye. I do not believe it will be good enough for home field advantage, but it will be good enough for a first-round bye. Now, everybody right now has been high on the Jets. I don't know why. Everyone's been high on Buffalo. I don't know why. There is one team that has impressed me, and I actually think they're going to go 9-7 and compete for a wild card spot. I think they're just going to miss it on the final week of the regular season, or the week before the final week of the regular season, because although I think they're going to beat New England in Week 17, I don't believe they're going to win their Week 16 contest. And when you're talking about a division game on the road in Buffalo, traditionally this team has really struggled with Buffalo. I'm obviously talking about the Miami Dolphins because I do think Miami loses to Arizona in Miami. I believe it's like Week 14. Week 15 they play the Jets. They'll win. Week 16 they play the Bills in Buffalo. I think they'll lose that game, and ultimately they'll win Week 16 against the New England Patriots to finish 9-7. I got the Dolphins finishing in second place at 9-7 and just barely missing a wild card berth. But I do think it's going to be a much improved year for the Miami Dolphins. I like what they did this offseason. Now, this has been tough for me to figure out who's going to do worse, the Jets or the Bills. When Sexy Rexy, as they call him, takes over a defense, that first year they're usually a lot better than they were the year before. But ironically, guys, and you can look this up, every time Rob Ryan has left a team as a D coordinator because he gets fired inevitably because his teams become completely undisciplined and ineffective, the following year that defense is a top 10 defense or top 15 defense. So they go from like 32nd to somewhere in the top 15 every single time. But conversely, when Sexy Robbie goes somewhere, I know I said Sexy Rexy, I meant Sexy Robbie. When Sexy Robbie goes somewhere to take over a defense, he always improves that defense. Now, I know the Bills were on the cusp last year, but they got a much tougher road to hoe. They don't have to travel now, less than halfway across the country to play the Rams. They got to go all the way to L.A., and the Bills really in the past have struggled in Los Angeles, whether it be the Rams or Raiders. I do have the Buffalo Bills finishing roughly around 7-9, 6-10. I actually think they're going to be a 6-10 football team, 7-9 if they can sweep the Jets, which is going to be a tall order. And I got New York holding up the rest of the division. I just don't think that their quarterback situation, although it's much improved, I don't think the football team is improved at all. And I think they've really taken a step back with what they're doing. I only have one team making the playoffs in that division, and it's the New England Patriots at 11-5. The rest of the division, they're not going anywhere. So now I'm going to jump to the AFC North. And the AFC North for me is a much, much, much different division. Everybody right now is so high on the AFC East. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay. Or they're talking about the AFC South. What they're not talking about is the Baltimore Ravens last year, guys, were an aberration. An aberration. It's not something that's going to be consistent. It's not something that the Baltimore Ravens are going to do very often, which is finish in the bottom of the league. They were injury prone. They had a lot of problems. You can expect the Ravens to be 500 or better this year. You can expect Pittsburgh to be 500 or better this year. You can expect Cincinnati to be 500 or better this year. And you can expect the Cleveland Browns to be, right where they unfortunately always are, dead last of the division. So I've got the Browns. That's the easy one for me. I got them finishing dead last and holding up the division with a lot, and I mean a lot of work to do. They've really got to rebuild that franchise. So who wins the division? This has been tough for me. But as much as I hate to say this because I really don't like this team, I do think that this football team has improved tremendously over the course of last season and proved that even injuries are tough to keep them out. I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the AFC North, and I got them winning it with a 10-6, 11-5 record. Good enough for a wild card host, not good enough for a first round bye. I then have the Baltimore Ravens at 10-6, making the wild card and getting back into the postseason. Actually, might surprise you who they eliminate. But I've got the Ravens finishing second. And Cincinnati at around 500, maybe even 9-7, is the odd team looking in. This is probably going to mean, unfortunately, a Marvin Lewis firing. That's unfortunate because I think Marvin Lewis is a class act and I don't think he should be fired. But ultimately, his team isn't going to make the playoffs, and after the way they lost the wild card game last year, I think it's going to cause a problem. And that brings me to everybody's second favorite division in the AFC. And everybody's talking about this division and how improved one team is and how improved another team is. But ultimately, guys, in the course of 16 games, you are what you are. And while the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is everybody's sexy pick to be a surprise team this year to make the playoffs, have an explosive offense, their defense is horrendous. They are so bad that they make the worst defense, in my opinion, the New Orleans Saints last year, look respectable. I know they did a lot of things to improve that defense in the offseason, but ultimately it comes down to coaching, and I don't think 1 year is going to make a difference. I do see an improvement for Jacksonville as well. I'm just not as high on them as they are. The team that I have predicted to go 12-4, and win the division and home field advantage throughout, and this is going to piss off you Bronco fans, is the Houston Texans. The addition of Brock Osweiler to now, in my opinion, the best defense in the AFC. That's right, I said it. Denver, you lost too much. You lost way too much of your defensive talent to still stay claim to being the number 2 defense. Let's not forget how injury-riddled the Houston Texans were on offense and defense and still managed to make the playoffs. They are going to be healthy. J.J. Watt got that surgery. He'll be ready to go week 1. It'll take him a few weeks to get into his own rapport. You've got Jadeveon Clowney that's going to either have to step up or step down as a football player. I got the Houston Texans going 12-4 and winning not just their division, but home field advantage throughout the postseason. I've got the Indianapolis Colts finishing in second place and making a wild card game. I think their quarterback is going to be back. I don't think there's any question Andrew Luck is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Their defense is improving. The Colts will not be denied a second time from the postseason. Pagano is going to reward his owner for giving him the extension, and the Colts are going to go 10-6. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars, where are they going to finish? I think Jacksonville is going to finish in third place, but I think they're going to finish at 8-8, which is a tremendous improvement from their 5-11 season they had a year ago. But it's not going to be good enough to make the playoffs. They can't make that kind of a leap right now because their defense, in my opinion, still needs to gel, still needs time, and their coaches need to prove to me as a fan and as a follower of the game, especially a student of the game and especially a coach myself, that they can get these guys to do what they need to get them to do. The last place team, and it's an unfair statement because I do think that the Tennessee Titans will also be tremendously improved in Marcus Mariota's second year, but ultimately it's not going to be enough to get in. So as you look at this board, I've got 5 of the 6 teams in the postseason in the first 3 divisions. New England with a first round bye at 11-5, Houston at 12-4 with home field advantage throughout, Pittsburgh at 11-5 and hosting a wild card game. I've got the Ravens and the Colts in the postseason as well, which brings me to everyone's favorite division. Now, everyone's favorite division. And everybody's talking about this. And everybody's talking about that. And everybody's talking about how great Denver's going to be despite the fact that Butt Fumble is their quarterback. Butt Fumble. Let me say that again so everybody understands. Butt Fumble is your quarterback. Butt Fumble. Or some dude no one heard of. Now maybe Simeon's going to turn out to be a great player and shock everybody. I certainly think Blaine Gabbert is a better quarterback than Butt Fumble right now. Matter of fact, I think Blaine Gabbert, if the 49ers start him, is going to be the difference between a really tough race for 3rd and 4th place in the division to, if Colin Kaepernick's the starter, a 2-14 San Francisco 49er team. So San Fran, please don't start Blaine Gabbert. Please start Colin Kaepernick. In Denver, they're going to start butt fumble. So who wins the division? Is it going to be butt fumble? No. Butt fumble's not going to win the division. The Oakland Raiders are going to win the division, and what may be their final year in Oakland is we may be starting to call them the Las Vegas Raiders sometime in the very near future, thanks to the NHL actually putting in a team there. This is going to be a thing that I think could very well happen in the future if Oakland doesn't get them the stadium that they need. But this, whatever the case may be this year for Oakland, they're winning that division this year. And they're winning that division with, drum roll please, an 11-5 record. It's going to be a very common record in the league. 11-5 is going to be good enough to win it for the Oakland Raiders. 10-6 is not going to be good enough to get this team in the postseason, but they will finish 10-6. I got the Kansas City Chiefs finishing in second place and just missing the postseason at 10-6. I like Alex Smith. I like Andy Reid. I like what the organization has done, and I like the fact that they quietly were winning more games than anybody else down the stretch last year and had the longest winning streak in the NFL. So, what about butt fumble? Are you telling me that the San Diego Chargers are going to do better than butt fumble? Actually, no, I'm not saying that. The Denver Broncos, 6-10, will finish in third place. It won't even be close. They won't even be anywhere near the division race by Thanksgiving. The San Diego Chargers will be holding up that division probably right now as I see it until I see something different. I got them sitting at 5-11, maybe even 6-10. So what about the AFC? I've got my predictions up here. So you're telling me Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Houston, Indy, New England, and Oakland make it. Yeah, and I think a 10-6 cheap team just barely misses. How does it break down then? The way I see it breaking down is you've got the Baltimore Ravens at 10-6 going to the 11-5 Oakland Raiders in a rematch of the 2000 AFC Championship game. I got the Raiders winning this game. I think their offensive firepower is too great. I think they made so many moves on that defense. I actually got the Raiders beating the Ravens and advancing to the AFC divisional playoff game at the New England Patriots. Because I think the Indianapolis Colts go into Pittsburgh and pull the upset. For the second year in a row, Pittsburgh can't get out of its own way in a postseason game. And it'll be the second game in a row because I think Andrew Luck's going to have a lot to prove. And I think Andrew Luck's going to go into Pittsburgh. I think he's going to beat Pittsburgh. Okay? Then I've got Indy going to Houston. Brock Osweiler in his first postseason game against Andrew Luck, looking to right a couple of wrongs from last season. A great Oakland Raider team this year, a much improved Oakland Raider team, against a solid New England Patriots team with Tom Brady and a relatively healthy football team. I've got New England beating the Raiders and beating them soundly. Maybe by 2 touchdowns, maybe by 17 points, but I got the Patriots winning to advance to the AFC Championship game. I've got the Indianapolis Colts going into Houston, and I think Brock Osweiler is going to prove to everyone that he's every bit as good as people thought he was. I think at home with that defense, the Texans win, and New England has to go on the road to play the Houston Texans. And I think that AFC Championship game is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a great defense against a great offense, but if I've learned anything over the years, as much as I hate this football team, Bill Belichick knows how to prepare his football team. I got the Patriots beating the Texans and going to the Super Bowl with an 11-5 record and winning the AFC and once again looking to win a 5th Super Bowl title. That's how I see the AFC breaking down in my preseason predictions. Unfortunately, not a Patriot fan, but I do see them as the best team in the AFC. All right, some of you right now are probably cussing at me because of my AFC prediction. I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to get any better with my NFC prediction. I'm going to start with the NFC East. And I've spent a lot of time going back and forth on how I think this is actually going to break down. And in the end, I don't have a way of knowing for sure if this is going to happen, but I had this gut feeling on draft day when Dallas drafted the people that they did, especially the running back, that this is going to happen, and I'm just going to go through with it. There's no question in my mind that the Dallas Cowboys, with Ezekiel Elliott, with a healthy Tony Romo, with a healthy Dez Bryant, and their improving defense, that they're the best football team in the NFC East. And it's not even close. Guys, you have to understand. I know what you're saying, some of you, and I agree with you. I've agreed with you for years. Every single year, Dallas is picked to win the NFC East. They're picked to go to the Super Bowl. And it just gets annoying and eye-rolling at one point. I understand, and you're right to feel that way. But you saw what this football team did with DeMarco Murray, and if it wasn't for an official that didn't know what a friggin' catch was against the Green Bay Packers, it would have been Dallas in the Super Bowl, not Seattle, playing the New England Patriots. When you have the line that the Dallas Cowboys have, it's all over. And when you put it back in the backfield, and everyone says he reminds me of, everyone wants to make the Emmitt Smith comparisons. I'll tell you who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Tony Dorsett. He reminds me of a shorter, smaller Tony Dorsett. He doesn't remind me of Emmitt Smith at all. And Emmitt didn't remind me of any Cowboy running back ever. The Dallas Cowboys at 12-4 are going to win the NFC East. There is no question whatsoever in my mind they win the division. Just like there's no question in my mind whatsoever that the Washington Redskins get the wild card spot at 10-6. I think their quarterback is that good. I think Norman's going to be that much of an improvement. And I think this football team is going to make a lot of noise down the stretch and end up making the playoffs. The New York Giants, which is everyone's sexy pick to win the NFC East, or at least make a wild card game, I don't think they're good enough. I'm sorry, I'm not a Janoris Jenkins fan. You didn't improve your secondary, you disproved it. Disproved it? You unimproved it? You made it worse, however you want to word it. He's not very good. He's a hot and cold player. He'll get you the pick six against the garbage receivers, but he'll also get burned for 80-yard touchdowns against the garbage receivers. And when it comes time to shut down the top receivers, Janoris Jenkins MIA. He's a problem in this division with the Dez Bryant and the receiving core that the Washington Redskins have. What he isn't a problem is taking care of this team. Last place, Philadelphia Eagles. Sam Bradford and company go 5-11, 4-12, 6-10. Take your pick. Either one's going to be agreeable with me. That's where they end up. They're not very good. Which brings me to the NFC North. Now, the NFC North. The NFC North is a really tough division to figure out. So let me start with the team that I think is not hard to figure out. The Detroit Lions are going to take their customary spot in last place. All right? No question that the Detroit Lions, under that head coach, with no wide receivers, no running game, and no defense to speak of, is going to be one of the worst teams in the National Football League. The question is, how does the rest of the division break up? I got the Green Bay Packers winning the North with an 11-5 record. Maybe even 10-6, depending how they do against Minnesota. But I got them winning the division nonetheless. The next team, I said the Washington Redskins make the playoffs. Let me give you a caveat on why that may not happen. I have both the Minnesota Vikings and the Washington Redskins going 10-6. November 13th at Washington, the Minnesota Vikings play the Washington Redskins. Now, right now, on paper, I wrote down the Vikings beating the Redskins and going to the postseason. My gut is telling me the Redskins win. But I don't know if that's my gut or my fandom. Minnesota in Washington is the NFC wild card game, entry game for the 6th seed. Whoever wins it is going to win the 6th seed and make the wild card. I don't see both making it. And the Redskins at 10-6 and the Vikings at 10-6, it's going to come down to that game. So I'll give you two different postseason scenario breakdowns. One if the Vikings are in, and one if the Redskins are in. And maybe by the end of the preseason, I'll have a more definitive answer. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go with the Redskins right now because that's what my gut's telling me. We'll see what happens when the preseason breaks down. Chicago Bears will finish third. They're not an improved football team. They lost too much talent, especially with the loss of Matt Forte, but they are certainly better than the Detroit Lions. What about the NFC North or South? Well, let's talk about the NFC South. The NFC South is going to surprise you, I think. The NFC South, remember what I said about when Rob Ryan leaves a team? The defense improves. If this defense improves, this team improves. The New Orleans Saints at 11-5 win the NFC South, and they take it from the Carolina Panthers. The Atlanta Falcons have improved enough to finish second once again, not improved enough to make the postseason. The reason I have the Carolina Panthers in third place is for no other reason than the fact that last year they only played 3 teams with a winning record in the regular season. Going into that season, they only played 6 teams that had made the playoffs the year before. That's it. They had the easiest schedule in the National Football League, and they played Green Bay when the Packers fell apart. They beat a good Seattle team. I'll give them credit there. And I don't even remember who the other team with a winning record was that they beat. The Redskins, which was taken away from the Redskins. That game was decided in the first 5 minutes when the officials didn't know what the hell a friggin' legitimate hit, fumble in the air, recovery for a touchdown was. Instead, they called a personal foul. I don't see Carolina getting anywhere near the postseason this year. 7-9 will be good enough for third place. And yes, I said 7-9 like they did a few years ago. Everyone likes this team. I have 2 words for you. Dirk friggin' Cotter. I went to ASU. I had season tickets when he was the head coach for the Sun Devils. Dirk friggin' Cotter. Buccaneers in last place. I don't need to say any more than that, because that's just the reality of the situation. He is not a good coach, and they're not a good team. I don't care how good their quarterback looked at the end of the year in garbage time. When it's crunch time, let's see what this guy can do. And need I remind people, he couldn't beat the Rams in St. Louis. He damn sure ain't going to beat the Los Angeles Rams no matter where they play. And yes, we played Tampa Bay this year. What about our division? What about the NFC West? Is it really that good of a division, Anthony? Yeah. Yeah, it really is. You're going to have the Arizona Cardinals, though, winning the division at 13-3, maybe even 14-2 with the best record in football. I don't even think it's going to be close. The Arizona Cardinals, I hate to say it because they're in my division. I live here. I have to see and hear more of the garbage than normal. And I can tell you guys, whatever you're hearing outside of Arizona, it's even better than you're hearing here in the Valley. They're legit. I know they're playing the Raiders tonight. I don't even know what the score was to the Raider game. I'll look at the review on the NFL Network later tomorrow. But what I do know is that this Arizona Cardinal team, if they stay healthy on paper, I don't know how you beat them. So, what about second place? Is it going to be Seattle like everyone thinks? No. At 10-6, actually, make it 11-5. At 11-5, 10-6, I've got the Rams making the NFC wildcard game. As a matter of fact, I got them going 11-5 because I got them beating Arizona in Arizona. Or I got them beating Arizona in LA to finish the season at 11-5. Just barely edging out the 10-6 Seattle Seahawks. Actually, I'm being very kind when I say that. When I look at the Seahawks and I see how much they lost, I don't think Rawls is going to be good enough to carry them like Marshawn Lynch did. I don't think their defense has improved. I think their defense is hurt. They lost so much talent. I know they brought one of their own back in, and maybe that'll help with Browner. But in the end, you don't lose an Irvin. You don't lose the guys to retirement that they lost to or an Okun and expect to have the same result. They missed the playoffs. I think they're going to be 9-7, but I'll be kind and say maybe they win a game I didn't expect because Rawls has a better than average performance. But 10-6 still won't be enough to knock off the Redskins or the Vikings from that 6th wild card spot. Last place, and where they should be, because they are one of the worst teams in football, the hapless San Francisco 49ers will be in last place in the division. There's no question about that. So how about this? How does this break down, Anthony? What do you see happening in the postseason then? In my preseason prediction, this is what I'm going to go with. I've got the Rams going to New Orleans to play the Saints. The 5 versus the 4 seed. I've got the Green Bay Packers playing the Washington Redskins. I've got the Packers destroying Washington and going on to the NFC Divisional Playoff game. I've got the Rams pulling the upset in New Orleans, beating the Saints, and going to the NFC Divisional Playoff game. I've got the Rams, who are the 5 seed, going to Arizona. I don't see the Rams beating Arizona in Arizona, especially in a postseason game, although I think it'll be a tough game. I've got the Cardinals advancing to the NFC Championship game. I've got Green Bay in Dallas. I've got Dallas obliterating Green Bay in the playoff game due to their strong running game. And I got Dallas at Arizona for the NFC Championship game. In that game, it's going to be a war of attrition. Tony Romo's going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders. And I think the Cardinals are going to lean on David Johnson. And I think the Cardinals are going to win the NFC Championship game and get to their 2nd Super Bowl since 2008, which is essentially 2 Super Bowls in 8 years. So what about the Super Bowl? Cardinals against the Patriots. What do you got, Anthony? Well, in a rematch of Week 1 Sunday night game, I've got the Arizona Cardinals on a neutral field against this team. You give Bruce Arians 2 tries to beat a team, this time ready for Tom Brady. I got the Cardinals beating the New England Patriots and winning their first ever Super Bowl. Now that could go either way, guys. I'm not sold on Arizona winning the Super Bowl. Just right now, looking at everything on paper, and games are not won, and championships are not decided on paper, I've got the Cardinals winning the Super Bowl. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's not the Patriots or the Cardinals. All right, last stage, if you will, of this show. So I'm looking at this and I'm asking myself, the season's upon us. What am I looking for? I got to be honest with you guys. Whether the Rams go 11-5, 10-6, or 4-12, for me this year, and I hope you guys feel the same, I'm giving them a pass. The move, just being the Los Angeles Rams for this year, is good enough for me. They win, it's a bonus. Do I expect them to win? Yeah, I think the talent's finally there to win. Do I care if they win? Of course I do. But I don't care if they lose. I don't. Because in the end, and I don't know about you guys, here's the number one thing I'm looking for. And please comment if you agree. Just to be able to sit down on Saturday night and watch the graphic read Los Angeles and Dallas. Is that not the greatest thing ever? Like, that is the number one thing I'm looking for. And I know I'm going to get it. It's amazing. To see the Rams play in the Coliseum. I'm so excited. For no other reason. But what about the team? Should Case Keenum be the starter going into Week 1, Anthony? What's wrong with Jared Goff? Is he going to be a bust, Anthony? To the first. If Case Keenum wants to play the role of Steve DeBerg. Oh, you're talking about no. Well, the Tampa Bay, but no. You mean when DeBerg was on the Chiefs? No. The last time the Rams were in the Coliseum, Steve DeBerg was the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. And the very guy that Jared Goff is being compared to was a rookie in '79 and a backup. Joe Montana. If Case Keenum wants to play the role of Steve DeBerg, I'm fine with it. If we need to give this guy an entire year to learn the system, learn how to play, and get a Joe Montana out of him, I'm game. But if he's ready to play, he should play. I'm not calling for Case Keenum to be on the bench week 1. I'm not calling for Jared Goff to start week 1. I'm going to trust, and I probably shouldn't because they haven't earned it, but I am going to trust the Rams organization that they are going to handle this quarterback the same way Jeff Fisher handled Aaron McNair and the same way Bill Walsh handled Joe Montana. I'm going to give that situation time. Unless Keenum is just making horrendous decisions costing us games against the 49ers and the Seahawks at home and the Bills at home, I'm not calling for Case Keenum to not start. I'm not calling for Jared Goff to start. I don't care. Let the situation unfold. What I'm looking for in this preseason game, besides the graphic, I'm looking for the Rams' offensive line, and I'm talking their twos now, to show me that they can protect the quarterback. I'm looking for the Rams' defensive line, and I'm talking about the twos here, showing me that they can get penetration and stop the other team's offense. I'm looking for the number ones, which we'll only see for a series or two. I'm looking for the ones to get off the field against the Dallas Cowboys. Because if you can do that with that offense and that team that I think is going to be that good, I'm happy to pig and poo. I really am. That is good enough for me. Last thing that I'm looking for is I'm looking for Legatron to get his mojo back. Because we need him. You cannot have a kicker that's dangerous as he is and not want him on your football team. You guys understand, the minute we cross our own 40-yard line, we're in field goal range. It's unheard of. I'm obviously exaggerating. He's got a big leg. We need his confidence. Those are my 3 keys. Do the ones get off the field in the first series and the second if they play a second? Do the twos on both lines, offensive and defensive, get the job done, meaning protect the quarterback and get to the quarterback? And does Legatron get his mojo back? Guys, if those 3 things happen, I don't care if the Rams lose or win the preseason game. That's what you need to look for. I'm not going to do predictions. It's preseason. It's a glorified practice. I and you and no one cares. Just stay healthy. But again, Legatron gets his mojo, starts to find it. The twos on the O and D line do what they need to do to get the job done, and the ones get off the field on defense. I don't care what the ones do on offense. Not yet. I know everyone's like, I'm watching Case Keenum. Well, you can watch Case Keenum. Even if he stinks up the joint, he's still going to be the starting quarterback more than likely week 1 unless Goff is ready. At least he better not be on the field if he is not ready. If Jared Goff is not ready, he has no business being on that field. You'll get a lot of him in the preseason game against Dallas, and I hope he comes out unscathed, and I hope we see an improvement. But guys, please, don't go bananas if he has a great preseason game. It's preseason. Now, you're up against it, LA. You're up against it. They're already doing this. Oh, we're going to see if the Ram fans are really going to come out and support them in LA. Even though it's preseason, they're making a big deal about the attendance and the excitement. It's preseason. So I hope you go, but just know, if you don't, there's going to be some some backlash. Ignore it. It's just noise. We all know the preseason. Focus on the regular season. Get your butts in the stands. I'm hoping to go to the game against Buffalo in October. My dad's coming down from Nebraska to see the kids and the grandkids, and I'm excited to see them. So, I've never seen a game with them before, so it's going to be an opportunity for father-son or father-sons, fathers and sons, to go catch that game. Tickets are relatively cheap. You can get tickets right now, guys, for like $50-$60 a ticket, depending where you want to sit. I don't care where I sit. I just want to be able to say I went to the Coliseum and saw the Rams play in the Coliseum. Everything else to me is secondary. I don't need the suite seats, and I don't need the 50-yard line right on top of the field seats. I could be up in the nosebleeds. I'm in the Coliseum watching the Rams. I'm happy. And so should you. They're back. Now, I'm going to conclude with my dream. I'm aware this is a dream. It probably sounds ridiculous. Most ridiculous way to end a segment I think I've ever done. But I'm going to do it because I think it's valid and I want it on record. I never dream about the Rams performing or not performing. Never do. Never do. I don't have football dreams that I remember. Just don't. But it did. I had a dream, and of all teams to play, I had a dream that the Rams were in the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos. And the score was, with Goff taking a knee, Rams 45, Broncos 3. It was pretty awesome. It was a dream. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not making that my prediction when the regular season starts. But I do think it's interesting, and I want on record, just in case. So I could say, not so fast, my friends. I did say this. I had a dream about it. But again, I don't foresee that being the case. I don't see either one of those teams making the Super Bowl. And I certainly don't see Denver making the playoffs. And I see the Rams going, we'll win a wild card game, hopefully, but I don't see them getting out of the divisional round. Not with those two teams they'll be hosting. So that wraps up LA Rams Central, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It feels so good to be back. And we will have another show next week covering the Rams-Cowboys game. Were those three things there? What did I think of Legatron's mojo, the Rams number 2s on the O-line and D-line, and the number 1s? Did they get off the field? We'll talk about all of that great stuff and much, much more going into the next preseason game. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy it. Please feel free to comment. It's good to be back. And go Rams!